HTML and CSS. In today's video, we're going to create a simple beginner-friendly website using HTML and CSS from scratch. We're going to go into a step-by-step process required to build this website, so even though you're a beginner or you're already into web development, this video is for you. So if you're ready to level up your skills, let's get started. Okay, now as you can see here, I have a CSS file here and I also have a HTML file here. And here is my images folder that I have by this side of my screen, which I have the photo of the WWE champion, Roman Reigns. That's the one image I have, so that's all we need to get this project done. So now let's head to the VS Code. So for my VS Code, as you can see here, I've linked my HTML file to my CSS file and I gave it a title of simple website. That's all I have. For my CSS here, I haven't done anything. That's all I have done for my HTML. So now the first thing I'm going to do in my HTML now is to create a div, which I'm going to name that div to be main. So I'm going to write .main and here is my div. So I'm going to create a header which is going to be for my navigation. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to create my logo. So I'm just going to write .logo. And within this logo, I'm going to write my Code Dev Academy, which is going to be a text of Code Dev Academy. So it's going to be code. And for the academy, I want it to be in a span. So I'm just going to write span and I will insert my academy. Now I'm done with my logo. So now I'm going to create my UL, my list items, but I'm going to create a different div for it. So I'm going to write .list items. So now after creating my list items div, first I'm going to create now a link, which I'm going to link it to nothing. Then for here, I'm going to insert a text of coaches. I will need 5 different items, so I'm going to paste it 5 times. Since the first one is coaches, the second one is going to be about us. So let me just update it. Now I'm done with my list items. What I'm going to do now is to create a button. So I'm just going to come below this my list items div and create a button. And within this button, I'm going to create a link which I'm going to insert my text because I want my text to be a link. So I'm going to say for the text is going to be register new. That's all I need for my header right now. I have my logo to be Code Dev Academy, my list items. I have 5 list items and I have a button. That's all I have for my header. So I'm going to head to my CSS here and start styling. So the first thing I'm going to do for my CSS is I'm going to give my general styling, which margin is going to be 0 and padding is also going to be 0 and box sizing is going to be border box. For the list items, it's going to be none. And because of my links, they are going to come with a default underline. So I'm going to say text decoration none because I don't want the underline. So I'm going to say text decoration. It's going to be none. And I'm going to say outline also it should be none. For the borders also, I'm going to just make it to be none. And that is all I need for my general styling. So after that, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to target my main. So I'm going to write .main. So I'm going to say weight to be 100%, which is 100% of the body. And after having that, I'm going to say the height should be 100 VH. Then I'm going to give it a background color. For the background color, I'm going to say hash. Now this is my background color. Then I'm going to target my header, which contains my logos, my list items, and my button. First, I'm going to say header, just like that. So the first thing I'm going to give for my header is to give it a padding. For the padding, I'm going to say 10 pixel top and bottom and 25 pixel left and right. That's the first thing. Then I'm going to give it a display of flex. Display of flex. Then I'm going to say align item center. Then it's going to be justify content and it's going to be space between. Now that's the only thing I need for my header. Then I'm going to target my logo, which is my Code Dev Academy. The first thing I'm going to do for my logo, I'm going to say .logo is the first target the div. Then I'm going to give it a font size. For the font size is going to be 1 rem. Then font weight, and the font weight is bold, obviously. After making it to be bold, then I'm going to give it a color, and for the color is going to be white. After that, then I'm going to target my span, which is my academy. If you look at the other side of my screen in my HTML, the academy, I put it inside a span. So now I'm going to say .logo. Then I'm going to target the span. So all I want to do for this span is to give it a different color. So I'm going to say color, and I'm going to insert the color I need. That is it, which is going to be 00ABF0. That is the color. Then that's all I need for my logo. Now I'm done with my logo. What I'm going to focus now is in my list items, which is my coaches, about us, pricing, store, and blog. Now those are what I'm going to focus on. So what I'm going to say now, I'm going to target my header. Then I'm going to target my list items. So I'm going to see .list. So I'm going to see .list items. Then I'm going to target my links, which are each of the elements. So the first thing I'm going to say, I'm going to give it a font size. And for the font size, I want all of them to be 0.9 rem. That's the first thing. Then I'm going to give it a font weight, which is going to be bold. After giving it that, then I'm going to give margin, because I want them to be having space between them. That's why I'm going to give it a margin of left, so that they should be having space between them, which is going to be 20 pixels. So they are going to be having 20 pixel space between them. After that, I'm going to give them a color. A color is going to be white. So all of my list items are going to be having white colors. So now let's save and check our browser to see our result. As you can see now, this is actually what we're having here. Here is our academy, here is our list items, and here is our button. But because we haven't started styling our button, that's why it's like that. So let's go back to our CSS here. So what I'm going to do now next, I want, when I hover on my list items, I want the color to change. So I'm going to say .list items. Then I'm going to target my links, which are each of the list items. So I'm going to say hover. After making it to be hover, then I'm just going to come down here and say color. For the color, I will just insert this color, and let's check what we have here. Now by the time we're hovering, then the color now is changing. So I'm going to add transition to this my color, so that it should be changing with a smoother way. And for the first text, which is this coaching, I want it to be permanently this color. So what I'm going to do now here is I'm going to head to my HTML here, to where this coaches is. Then I'm going to give it a class name, and I'm going to name this class name to be active. And that's all I have here. So I'm going to head to my list items that I gave it over. So just after targeting this my A, I'm going to say comma. Then I'm going to give it an active. So what happened now is, for the list items, it's when I hover. Oh sorry, it's supposed to be after the list items. So let me just cut this off. After the hover, then you say comma, then you paste your active. So what happened now is, when I hover on each of my list items, it's going to change to this color. But me putting comma, given that my first item to be having a class name of active, that means I don't need to hover on it before it changes. It's going to be having this color permanently. So let's check what we have here. As you can see here, this is actually what we're having here. Now the rest is when I hover, the color will change. But for the first text, it's permanently in that color. So now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to head to the list items and give it a transition, so that the color should be changing smoothly. So I'm going to say transition is going to be is and 1000 millisecond. So as you can see here, when I hover, it's changing smoothly. That's all I have here. Then what I'm going to do now next, I'm going to target my button in my header. So I'm going to say header, then I'm going to target my button just like this. So the first thing I'm going to give for my button is padding. For the padding, is going to be 10 pixel top and bottom and 20 pixel left and right. just like this. After that, then I'm going to give it a background color. For the background color, I want it to be having this light color. After that, then I'm going to make a border of none, just like this. So now, after having the borders to be none, what I'm going to do is to give it a border radius so that the edges will be curved. So for the border radius, it's going to be 10 pixels. Then I'm going to make a cursor to be pointer, just like that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to target my text that is in my button. So I'm going to say header, then target the button. As you can see here, the text here for my button is a link, so that's why it's having an anchor tag. So I'm going to say A, just like that. So the first styling I'm going to give for this my A is to give it a font weight, and for the font weight is going to be bold. After that, I'm going to give it a font size. For the font size, it's going to be 0.8 rem. After having that, then the color should be white. That's the first thing we need. Then after having that, I want, when I hover on the button, I want to be having a box shadow. So the first I'm going to do, I'm going to say header. Then I'm going to target the button. Then I'm going to say hover. So in this case, this is the background of the border that is going to be reflecting to these changes that I'm going to do. So I'm going to say box shadow. It's going to be 0, 0, and it's going to be 10 pixel blood, and the color is going to be this light color. So let's check what we're having here. Now this is actually what we're having. So when I hover, this is the box shadow that is appearing. So for the header, we're actually done with our header. We have our logo, our list items, and our buttons are ready to go. So now let's start the whole body of this our website. So now let's head back to the HTML. So after this header, we're going to come down here and create a different div with a class name of hero. And within this hero, I'm going to create a different div which is going to contain the content. So I'm going to write content here. Now within this content, this is where I'm going to insert all my paragraphs, buttons, and everything is going to be within this my content. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a H1. And for the H1, I'm going to write strong. Then I'm going to break it and insert the next word. And for the next word is going to be inside a span. And the word comes every day. So just outside the span, insert the break tag again and write the next word, which is filter. Just like this. We use the break tag again and put span and insert the next word, which is forever. And I believe that is all we need. So after creating this H1, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a div that is going to contain my buttons. So I'm going to say .btn. So the first one is going to be my buttons. So I'm going to say button. And for the word, is going to be get started. That is for my first button. For my second button, the word is going to be how it works. And I'm going to give this button a class name. So I'm going to say class name. For the class name, it's going to be fbtn. And that's it. And that is all the content we need for our hero. So now let's get back to the CSS and style our hero. But before that, let me show you in the browser what we're having here. So now this is the content we have. It is named Strong Forever, Fit Forever. This is how the content is. And we have a div which we inserted two buttons, get started and how it works. This is the text that is inside the button. So this is just what we have for the content div. So now let's get back to CSS and style this hero. So the first style we are going to give for this hero, the first thing we are going to say .hero. Then we are going to give it a padding. And for the padding is going to be 10 pixel top and bottom and 25 pixel left and right. That's the first thing. Then we are going to give a display flex. The reason I'm giving it a display flex in this hero is because inside this hero we're going to be having two divs. The first div is going to contain my content and the second div is going to contain my image. I'm going to give it display flex and justify content space between. So the reason is because it's going to put my content at one side of the screen and my image is going to be at the other side of the screen. That's the main reason I'm giving it a display flex. So after giving it a display flex, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to say align item center. The align items is going to be center and justify content is going to be space between. So now that's just what I need. Then now I'm going to target my content. So I'm going to say content. Now within this my content, let me give it a background color of red. Not because I'm going to use it, but so that you can actually be seeing the whole body of the content. So after giving it a background color, I'm going to give it a max width. And for the max width is going to be 550 pixel. Because no matter the size of the screen, I don't want it to pass the maximum width of 550 pixel. Even if you're viewing it on the TV, it will not pass 550 pixel. That is the reason I'm giving it a max width of 550. So after that, but it can go below 550 pixel, but it can't pass 550 pixel. So after giving it a max width, then I'm going to give it a padding. The padding is going to be 10 pixel top and bottom and 0 left and right. So now let's check our output. As you can see, this is what we're having here. So let's get back and continue styling. So I'm going to target my H1. So I'm going to say content, then target my H1. So the first thing I'm going to do for this my H1 is to change the color. For the color, it's going to be white. Just like this. After changing the color, then I'm going to change the font weight. The font weight is going to be bold. After having that to be changed, then the font size also follows. So the font size is going to be 3 rem because I want them to be very big. So I want them to be in uppercase. So I'm going to say text transform to be uppercase, not lowercase, because I wrote them in lowercase. So I want them to change to uppercase. So after that, I'm going to say font family. I'm going to change the font family, which is going to be Arial. Something so simple. After that, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to target my span. If you can remember when I was inserting my H1, let me show you in my HTML here. Here it is. This is my H1 right here. So there are some of the text were inside a span, like this one called everyday, and there's another one also, and this one also is also inside a span. So now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to give them their own styling, which it's obviously going to be a different color. That's just it. So what I'm going to say now dot content, then I'm going to target the H1, then I'm going to target the span. So the first thing I'm going to do for this is I'm going to remove the background of this my text so that I can just be viewing the borders. I'm going to use a different property called -webkit -text -stroke, just like this. So first I'm going to say 1 pixel, and I'm going to give it the color of the borders I want it to appear. After that, then I'm going to remove the background for the color. So I'm going to say color, then I'm going to say transparent. So me having that, let me show you what we just did right now. As you can see here, this our span is having just borders, no background. So let me just remove this background color so that you can actually see it well. So let's head back. As you can see here, this is what we're having here. So now to start styling our buttons, I'm going to say dot content, then now we target the button. So the first thing we're going to do for these two buttons, we're going to give them padding, and it's going to be 10 pixel top and bottom and 20 pixel left and right. After having that, what we're going to do now, we're going to give them a background color. So we're going to say background, and for the background color we're going to be giving it this light color, just like this. And after that, we're going to give them a color. And for the color, I'm going to giving it this a little bit of dark color that I have here. After having that, I'm going to say font weight, and for the font weight is going to be bold. For the font size, I'm going to say 0.9 rem. After having the font size, I'm going to say border none, so that the borders will not appear. Then I'm going to give it a border radius for the edges of the button to be curved. So I'm going to say border radius. The border radius, which is going to be 10 pixel top, 0, then 20 pixel, then I'm going to give it 0 pixel. After having this, then I'm going to say cursor to be pointer. Now, after having the cursor to be pointer, let's check it and let's see what our result is. As you can see, this is what I'm having. But I want a little bit of space from the top, so I'm going to go back here and say margin top, which I'm going to make it to be 10 pixel. And let's see the result we have here. Now we're having space from the top. So now what I'm going to do now, let's head back to our CSS, and when I hover, I want box shadow to appear. So I'm going to say dot content, and I'm going to target my button. Then I'm going to say hover. So now when I hover, I'm going to say box shadow, which is going to be 0, 10 pixel. Then I give it a light color. And now let's see how the hover effect is working. So when I hover, now we're having this kind of light appearing, as you can see. But now for the second button, I want to remove the background. If you can remember, I gave it its own class name. So I'm going to go back to my CSS here. Now then I'm going to target that specific button. If you can see it, here's our first button here, and here's our second button here. But for the second button, I gave it its own class name, which is FTBN. So now I'm going to target that FTBN. So I'm going to say dot FTBN. Then I'm going to say, the first thing I'm going to do for this, I'm going to make the background. For the background color, I'm going to say transparent. That's the first thing. After making it to be transparent, then I'm going to say border. For the border, I'm going to make it 1 pixel solid, and I want it to be having this light color. After having it, then I'm going to say color. The color of the text, I'm going to make it to be having this dark color. Then let's check what we have here. As you can see here, this is our button, but our text here is transparent. We are not seeing it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back here and change the color. For the color, I'm going to make it to be white. Let's head back and see. As you can see here, now we're having a white color for our text here, and we're having this box shadow appearing, and for the other button we are also having the same box shadow. So now what we're going to do, we're going to insert our image, our WWE champion image. So we're going to go back here, and if you can remember at the beginning of this tutorial, I mentioned I have an images. I showed you an image that I'm going to use. So within this my hero also, I'm going to create a different div, which I'm going to name it to be profile. So after creating a div which I named it to be profile, I'm going to insert an image inside this my profile. So I'm going to say img, the image tag. Then I'm going to insert image here. I'm going to go into my images folder, and that's it. Then after that, I'm going to go to my CSS here and target my profile. So I'm going to say dot profile. After targeting my profile, what I'm going to do now is to give it a weight and a height. So I'm going to say, for the max width, I want it to be 500 pixel. So it's going to be 500 pixel. Then I'm going to give it a height. And for the height, I want it to be 400 pixel. Now we're going to target our profile image. So we're going to say dot profile. Then we're going to say img, which is our image. So the first one we're going to do for this, we're going to say the weight should be 100%. Then we're going to give it a height also. The height also is going to be 100%. For the background, it's going to be radial gradient. If you don't know much about linear and radial gradient, if you want me to make a video on it, please you can comment it down below and I'll be glad to make a video in it. But for now, I only did a video on linear gradient. I didn't touch radial gradient. So all I have now is linear gradient, a video in linear gradient. I haven't done a video in radial gradient. So now the first thing I'm going to do for your radial gradient now is to give it the two colors that you want it. But in this case, I want to insert three different colors. So the first color, I'm going to insert the first color, which is this my light color. Then there should be a comma between each color. So I'm going to write comma. Then I'm going to insert my second color, comma. Then I'm going to insert my third color, just like this. And I've inserted three different colors. So just before the first color, I'm going to come back here and write 9M. And I'm also going to write comma just like this. So let me save and let me show you guys what I've just done. So this is actually what I've done, as you can see it here. So I'm going to head back again, and after this my radial gradient, I'm going to give a box shadow. So I'm going to write box shadow just like this, which is going to be 0 0, then 20 pixel. Then I'm going to insert my color, which is this my light color, just like this. And now our image is fully complete, just like what you have seen in the beginning. Now this is actually what we're having here. I have my button to be having this kind of shadow, and I have my image by this side of the screen. Here is my text here, and here is my buttons. And we have come to the end of this tutorial. Please, if this tutorial was helpful, please like this video, and I would like to see a feedback on your experience watching this video. And if you want to join us in exploring the world of web development, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for your time. See you in my next video.